Everyone, it's a new day, and you have the morning hour for this January 17th, 2020. Your host, James J. Maloff here, and this morning we are joined by three wonderful people, along with many, many more. Randy Paul, Terry Johns, Pam Hilke are all on with us this morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, James.
Appreciate you guys joining us. We're going to check in with our friends at the Weather Center right now. Good morning over there.
Hey, good morning. Michael Caro here once again.
Michael, we appreciate you joining us. Thanks for being on the air.
My pleasure.
What is our forecast looking like today, Mike?
Well, the good chunk of the day looking to stay fairly quiet, but of course we do have that winter weather advisory that goes into effect 3 o'clock this afternoon, continues all the way through your Saturday evening time frame. So again, the best chance for that snow developing out there, especially towards the late afternoon and evening time frame. High temperatures working up into the lower part of the 20s later on this afternoon, and those winds increasing out of the south and southeast around 5 to 15 miles per hour. Then for tonight, snow could be heavy at times, around 4 inches of nighttime snow accumulation expected, and could even mix with some freezing drizzle at times late in the night. Those temperatures actually looking to hold fairly steady in the low to mid-20s for tonight, and even into your Saturday could pick up another 2 to 3 inches of snow accumulation. Also expecting some blowing snow for tomorrow. Winds switching around to the west, increasing to around 15 to 25 miles per hour. Early high temperatures in the upper 20s, and then dropping back into the upper teens for those temperatures by your Saturday afternoon. For your Sunday, looking to stay dry there, at least some partial sunshine, but on the colder side, only looking at lower teens for high temperatures, and looking to stay in the teens as far as those temperatures are concerned both Monday and into your Tuesday. A good deal of sunshine, though, to start off your work week, and then finally back to some 20s, maybe even some 30s for those high temperatures by the time we hit Wednesday and into your Thursday. So the cold snap doesn't last all that long, but definitely a snowy period here to start off your weekend. Again, winter weather advisory officially goes into effect as of 3 o'clock this afternoon. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Michael Caro.
Appreciate the heads up, Michael. Thank you very much for that. We'll be ready for Mother Nature now. Appreciate it. You have a great weekend, and we'll talk soon.
You too. Have a good one.
It is 3 in Stevens Point, 1 in Marshfield, 0 in Wausau, and 5 here in Wisconsin Rapids, where we are with the morning hour. And it's a very special show today as we are going to be celebrating Carl Hilke, remembering Carl today. It's why we have so many wonderful faces in studio, along with Joe from Wisconsin Rapids Community Media. Good morning to you and all of our friends over there. Our engineer Chuck does a fantastic job around here, and he's actually in the middle of helping us, I think, right now. Let me see if this worked. No, not yet. No. Okay. So we have a couple of things that we're going to play off of our hot buttons here on our computer. Not working right now. Chuck's helping us out with that, so we appreciate it. We will have a note from our owner of our parent company, Seehafer Broadcasting. We have Mr. Seehafer with a nice message that he recorded, so we'll be getting to that too, as well as Terry Stake is going to be joining us, Jeff Stoner, Chris Woolridge, a number of other people are going to be joining us on the air here for this. We're here to celebrate. We're here to talk about one of our, the voice of Wisconsin Rapids, really, and Carl Hilke.
I was thinking the other day as I was driving down the road and my thermometer in my car said 3 degrees below zero, I thought of Carl.
Yeah.
Because you know what he would have said? He said, "That's not the temperature, Randy. That's the spread on Sunday's game."
Yeah.
That's exactly what he would have said, right?
That's exactly what he would have done. Yeah. I thought that a nice way to start things off would be a note from one of our other, since we always start our show off with our friends from the Weather Center, and we appreciate talking to Michael there. One of our things that Carl and I got doing right away was kind of creating a bit of a bit and a kind of a some chemistry with some of our friends on there. We thought it was an added voice and everything. So one of the best people that we got to work with doing this was Nikki Lynn, Nikki Latola, I believe, and she was not able to call in because she's working right now, so she sent us a message, and she said that my favorite Carl moment was listening to him sing the praises of how awesome the Sharks are, and watching and hearing the Blackhawks doesn't do the same thing. So Nikki never, if she can do. I thought that was pretty good because not only did she get a little bit of trash talking in, but she was also very nice about it, which is very Nikki. So we appreciate you, Nikki. Thank you very much for that. I thought we could also read some emails that we got as well. And while we're waiting for people to call in to the show, maybe we could do that now. And do any of you want to start? Does anybody want to go first? Or I don't want to jump over anybody if somebody wanted. Randy, you mind?
I just know that we've also got Don in studio.
Yes, yeah. And I was going to thank him. Right. I did want to thank Don Cheeseborough for being in. He's running the front desk right now so we can have Pam in studio. Yes. So appreciate that. Yeah, Pam, do you have something you want to read for us?
Sure.
Thank you.
I
Not to put you on the spot, I appreciate it.
I reached out to a number of former coworkers and got some responses. And this is an email that I received from Bill Bessett. Bill Bessett was a former news anchor in the late 1980s here. There are a lot of crazy things that go on behind the scenes of a radio station, especially when you're trying to read the news. I remember when some of our co-workers put on spooky masks and then jumped up from the adjoining studio during the newscast to try to scare us.
Randy Paul, that sounds like maybe you were part of that shenanigans.
Or worse yet, they would moon us during the news.
I've heard about that one.
None of that bothered Carl. He had a wonderful sense of humor. One of the things he enjoyed was the unique behavior of one of the Wood County board members. When I would come back to the station after covering the meetings, he always wanted to know if I had a sound bite from this particular board member who often appeared to be sleeping during the meetings. And then out of the blue would stand up and yell something to the effect of, "And blank, that's why I'm voting against it." Carl was a big help with my journalism career, and I will be forever grateful for his wisdom as well as his sense of humor. That's from Bill Bessett. As I said, he worked here in the 1980s.
That's really good. Thank you, Bill.
Yes.
We appreciate you, Bill. And that's a great memory. And that immediately made me think of how hard I used to try to break Carl. Like, he'd be over there doing some news or something like that, and I'd try to make a silly face or just do something to kind of throw him off. And I always like got a big kick whenever I could get him to laugh or something. He was one of those people that if you can get him to laugh, you felt good. We have on the air right now a gentleman who is the reason I'm in this chair right now, and the reason I got to have the chance to work with Carl 101 as long as I did. Bob Look is joining us right now. Good morning, sir.
Hey, is this over the back fence?
Sorry, call back at 11.
No, I got a Ford pickup truck for sale.
Sir, I imagine that's not under $300. Bob, thanks.
No, it's only $500. It's rust colored, and I'll even throw in the welded-on Confederate flag on the tailgate.
Well, then, yeah, place your ad. We'll take it.
Yeah, we got to take that. That's too good of an item not to sell. Bob, how are you?
I'm doing fine, and how's everybody there?
We're good. We're really happy to have you join us, man. When I say the name Carl Hilke, what's something that comes to mind for you?
The first thing I think is his loyalty. Seldom in the radio business does anyone get to spend virtually their entire career in their hometown or the town that they call their hometown for their career span and do what they love doing.
Yeah.
It's an incredible. It's almost as rare as dinosaurs, and we haven't seen many of them for a few million years. And so that's the one thing that stands out to me. Another thing that stands out to me is that he truly was emotionally tied with the audience and the people who listened. He cared about the people who were tuned in to hear what his work and what he had to say. He wanted to make darn sure that if he put out a news story, that the facts were accurate, that it was straight down the middle. People would understand the issue or the particular news story, so that they knew exactly what transpired. And that's so important in today's communications and in today's media. Yeah. And he was very loyal to that. I just wanted to impart a little story that told me a lot about Carl. And again, I had the opportunity to work with him, for several years. But the one thing that stands out to me more than anything else is when my wife's memorial, when it happened a week after the tragedy, and both, of course, Carl and Pam, made the trip, and they stood in a long line that was at the deal, just to tell them to spend not more than 5-10 seconds to just wish their condolences to me. But the one thing that just always stood out in my mind was that Carl was waiting in the line, and as he got up to me, he couldn't even talk. to me. He was so emotional, and the tears were just streaming down his face because he felt so bad for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that always will be a part of my memory of Carl, because he knows that there's so much more to life. He knows the wonderful loyalty and the love between he and Pam, and he knew the incredible affection and loyalty that I had to my wife, and he got it.
Yeah.
He didn't have to say a word to me.
Yeah.
All he did was just shake my hand and just walked away with tears on his face, and that to me is always something that I will never forget, and I'll always cherish. And plus the fact we just had way too much fun.
Yeah. You guys were like kids. I felt like I was the only adult around here sometimes, to be honest. Because they were trying to break Carl. Bob would do it. Bob actually did break Carl once. Like, I got him to laugh on air during a segment and everything. It was
well, we had one situation, and again, this might be a little inside radio, but Gene Delisio, our sports director, who's headquartered out of Marshfield, he'd always send in a report during the noon hour, with all the local sports, part of the information hour during the noon hour.
I love this story.
And it just happened one day. There was some kind of computer glitch, like that ever happens, that they couldn't get the report, to us, and so he wouldn't be on the noon report, and so Carl, he was getting himself, set to do the noon report, and I said, "Don't worry, Carl, I'll handle it. I'll record a sports report for you, and it'll be good. All right, fine." So he goes off, starts doing the noon reports and everything. So I'm in the production room, but of course, I can't not do something a little out to lunch. Okay. Well, anyway, Gino Delisio had a tendency, if there was not much sports happening, he had to fill a certain amount of time for a sports report. But if there wasn't too much local sports, he would pull up some archaic, a sound bite, of like Babe Ruth talking about hitting a home run, predicting a home run in Wrigley Field or something like that. And so I says, "Well, I got to do something that's kind of on that vein." And so I did the sports report. There was only a few scores of that, and then as only Gene would do, Marquette Golden Eagles victorious by 10 points last night. And then you take that dramatic pause.
Yeah.
And he goes, and then I said, "Newt Rockney, he was a legendary coach who's been Notre Dame playing Irish." And I could, and I recorded this when I was sitting in the production room. I'm looking through the window to see how Carl's reacting to this thing. Mm-hmm. He knows where I'm going with this. And I found the soundbite of Newt Rockney, doing a halftime speech. And so I says, "Newt Rockney would always inspire his troops with his great oratory like this. We're gonna fight. We're gonna win. That's him. We'll get him." And at that, so Carl was already on the edge of losing it.
Yeah.
Well, then I found the little quote from Vince Lombardi, and I says, "And legendary coach Vince Lombardi was asked his opinion of Newt Rockney's coaching style." And I took the little sound bit that says, "What the hell is going on around here?"
That's awesome.
And that was it. Carl was face down on the, and he had I think a state assemblyman in the studio with him, and they were both in stitches.
Yeah.
And that kind of was it.
That's such a good one, man. I mean, the work it took to just do a joke, but it was worth it, because that's part of what what makes radio work, is working with not only good people, but people that you have that kind of relationship with.
Yeah, he was a pro, a good guy, and like I says, emotionally he was tied with the audience, and it's going to be obvious as you hear more and more people talk about that. And like I said, it was truly my honor and my privilege to have a chance to work with him.
Feel the same way about you, Bud. And me and the listeners, us all here, we love hearing you on the air again, and we look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Well, head down to the Coal Center. You can hear me tonight.
That's right. There we go. Nice. Got that in there too. I like that. Hey, good luck tonight. Safe travels.
All right, buddy. Take care.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Bob, look, everybody. Let's go ahead and take another call here. Good morning. You're on the morning hour.
Good morning. This is Kyle Gerard calling from Madison, paying respects to Carl. Hi, Pam.
Hi, Kyle. Thanks for calling.
you?
Good.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Good. Carl hired me in October of 1986, and we worked together a couple of years until I took another job. It was during a time we worked with individuals like Terry Stake, you mentioned, Louis Rosendick, Arnie Strope, Jack Edwards. Jack Gennaro was our general manager.
Mm-hmm.
I handled the morning news. He handled the afternoons. Some memories. I was always impressed with, Carl's knowledge of the local issues. Some things that come to mind, the paper industry was so important. He always knew what paper machine was running and which one wasn't and which one was going to come online and offline. And we talked so much about, cranberries. The cranberry industry was just kind of taking a foothold in central Wisconsin. He really had a good feel for legislative issues, too, had a great relationship with Representative Marlon Schneider. I always remember he would instantly call Marlon for a reaction on issues, or he'd have Marlon come into the office for interviews, because Marlon was a powerful lawmaker from the Rapids area. And because Carl was so proud of having a legislator from Rapids and in a position of power, our news scripts were always sure to include that Representative Marlon Schneider was co-chair of the legislature's powerful Joint Finance Committee.
Mm-hmm.
Because that, it was kind of neat to have a representative from central Wisconsin who was in such a position of influence. But like as Bob said, broadcasting has changed so much over the years, and it is really rare these days to find news guys or on-air personalities like Carl, who worked in radio for so long. And perhaps, it's even more special that he spent his entire career, as Bob mentioned, in the community, for which he really lived and loved. And, most who come up in the broadcasting ranks like me, we were always looking to move on to that next job, that next community, but not Carl. He loved the Rapids area and never thought of leaving. And that's really something to, for all of us, including the listeners, to appreciate. And anytime I traveled through central Wisconsin, and I could pick up the WFHR signal, I'd always tune in to see or hear what Carl was up to. And hear one of his newscasts. He was really a good guy, and he'll be missed by so many. And I'm sure that radio in the Rapids, as we all called it, will not be the same without him.
Very well said, sir. And really good to meet you, and appreciate you calling up. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you, Kyle.
You bet.
Take care, Kyle.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Kyle. It was nice. That was a good call right there.
Yes,
It's good to hear from him. Let me see here. I think they may have hung up. Yep, they hung up. And let's see. Okay, we have another call coming in. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you, sir? You called into the morning hour?
I did for the remembering Carl.
Yes. So what do you have about Carl today?
Well, this is Tom Reichert calling.
Tom, I thought so. How are you, Tom?
I'm doing really well. How have you been?
Good. It's good to have you on the air with us.
Hey, thanks. It's nice to be back. There's so many things that I could say about Carl. We had such a good time in the 13 years that we did the radio show together, and I think some of our off-air minutes are probably legendary.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that really strikes me about Carl, and it involves Pam too, is when Missy and I had gotten together and had decided that we were going to get married. We had talked about what couples were involved in our life at the time that we really would want to emulate. And the couple that stood out more than anyone else was Carl and Pam. I think that the love they had for each other and the kindness was just incredible. And I know that the people that are listening that didn't know them personally and weren't in the studio, as much as I was, or saw them interact would probably not realize that. But they truly loved and cared about each other, and most importantly, they were so kind to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a thought of Carl and Pam that will always stay with me, and it's really something great that I have to hold on to.
Very well said, Tom. And as always, we appreciate you anytime we get a chance to talk to you. Thanks for the call. You have a great day.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Pam. Bye-bye.
Yeah, take care, Tom. Thank you for that. We do have to pay some bills, everybody, so we are going to take a very quick break. Luckily, we have the scheduler in here, so she set it up so that we don't have too many of these. But we will take a really quick commercial break, but those on hold we'll get to you as soon as we come back with more of the Morning Hour, AM 1320. This is WFHR. Welcome back to AM 1320, WFHR's Morning Hour. It's 3 in Stevens Point, 1 in Marshfield, 0 in Wausau, and 5 here in Wisconsin Rapids. We're celebrating our partner, Carl Hilke, today, taking some phone calls from many of his longtime friends and listeners out there. We're going to keep doing that as we go. We have another call on. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
Oh, okay. Hey.
Hi.
It's Rick Pacoca, Town of Rome. Hey, James, Pam, how are you doing?
Hi, Rick.
Hi, Rick. Nice of you to join us. How are you?
I am doing well. Watching your weather, and I'm not there. It's 80 here.
Rick, when I say Carl Hilke, what do you think of?
I think of a guy that could see our community for all its good and put it into words that his audience could understand and see with him. He had a remarkable talent for interviewing people and extracting information and putting it into a format that he remembered and that he shared so vividly with his audience.
Very well said, sir. Very well said. Rick, I really appreciate you calling in. Thank you very much. And you stay warm down there.
We will. And you too, Pam. Good luck to you guys.
Thank you. You too. Nice to hear from you.
Yeah, good to hear from you, Rick.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Rick. I knew it was him right away, that voice. He's got such a defining voice. Great voice. Thank you, Rick. Let's take another phone call. Good morning. You're on the Morning Hour.
Yes, good morning. This is Mike Hankins. I worked with Carl back in the day.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Mike. It's good to hear you. Thanks for joining us.
I'm honored to have been contacted, and Pam's one of the greatest people I ever knew, and I appreciate her tracking me down so I could call.
Oh, I appreciate you being able to make the time, Mike. Do you have a memory of Carl, or is there something about Carl that comes to mind as soon as I say his name?
Carl was the most dedicated reporter I think I ever knew. He knew what he wanted to do. That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to be a reporter. He wanted to do it in Rapids, and he was absolutely tireless about going after stories and about being there. He was so delighted to be doing that job. And I always thought he was a guy that knew what he wanted to do and had the chance to do it and was delighted to do it every day. It didn't matter how seemingly small the story might have been. He was absolutely committed to doing it, and I respected that very much.
Very well said, Mike. I really appreciate you calling in and making the time for us. Thanks, and you take care.
Thanks, Mike, for calling. Thank you.
Thanks for letting me know, Pam.
You're welcome.
We appreciate you, Mike. You have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Something that everybody keeps bringing up, and I almost feel like I took it for granted in a way with Carl, but his attention to detail is one of those things I didn't really think about until hearing everybody talk about it, but it is something that he was so darn good at. I knew, a lot of the other things we're talking about, I got a chance to experience, but that is something that I did not give enough credit, I think, when I think about it now, and I'm hearing everybody talk about him. His attention to detail is so vital, and you look at how it is nowadays, especially. He was always that way. It's really something. It really is. Let's take some more phone calls. Good morning.
Good morning, James. This is Mark Skiba.
Mark, how are you? Good to have you. Another one of those voices, as soon as I heard it, I'm like, oh, that's Mark. Yeah. How are you, sir?
I am pretty well, and I appreciate the opportunity to remember Carl. My thoughts are real similar to a lot that you've heard already. But, Carl and I started our broadcasting careers together in the early 80s. I don't remember which one of us started at WFHR first. It's so long ago, who could remember? But when I went on to do other things in broadcasting and then other things in business, it was always impressive to me in that Carl was, for the better part of 3 decades, this community was so fortunate to have a radio station like WFHR and somebody. I mean, Carl was the one that drove that to be that stalwart that cared as much about the community as he did. And, it's something that we took for granted because we don't know that doesn't happen in other communities. And I always, whenever I would come back, those of you that worked at the station, or if you ever worked at the station, you remember back when we had typewriters, walking into the news station on 25th Avenue. When you'd walk in the door and the newsroom was to the right, you'd always see Carl sitting at that typewriter, and he was usually like the unofficial greeter of WFHR when he was working on a story.
Yeah.
He was always putting his best into it.
I appreciate that, and thanks a lot for joining us. Really.
And Pam and I, we still have contact with each other on a pretty regular basis. But I've been around so long, I went to Pam and Carl's wedding.
Yes,
and,
I remember that
occasionally. So, all right. So this is a great hour, and I love listening to it. And thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks for calling, Mark. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Pam.
Thank you, Mark. Take care. Mark Skipper right there. That was great. That was a great call to take. Let's go ahead and take some more. No, not that one. Let's try this one here. Good morning. You're on the morning hour.
Good morning, James. Jeff Stoner calling from Texas.
Jeff, good morning.
Good morning. How's everybody? Let me put a couple other people on the line with us, okay?
All right.
Just a second.
The more the merrier.
From north of Alaska, somewhere, is Terry Skate, I think. And then on the other side of things, we've got Chris Woldridge down in Indianapolis, and we're still wondering why. And then you have me from Texas, so we're happy to be here, and I'm just going to let everyone else talk. I'm going to listen.
And we got the whole country covered, don't we?
Yeah, we just...
Man.
I am in the coldest place, though.
I'll let
and you can have that, Terry. You can have that cold weather. We don't have that down here in Indy.
Yeah, down here either.
Have it.
It's nice to see that some things don't change.
Right?
They're still going at each other like kids.
Is that Randy Paul? Is that Randy Paul right here?
Hey,
yeah.
Hey, if I say back off Boogaloo, are you rolling on the floor right now?
Holy crow, Randy. I'm surprised you're not on the golf course.
If I was in Texas, I would be.
I know you would be. I need your email, by the way. Get hold of me.
Will do. Let's go down the line here with you guys.
Do we know what hole that happened on? Was that on like the 17th hole, or was that, because I was gone by that point?
Yeah. You guys will figure that out off. Let's start things off with, I'll go down the line here with each one of you, and we'll start with Chris, go to Terry, and then Jeff. Do you have a memory or a thought about Carl that you'd like to share?
Where do I start? My memories with Carl there have so many, but he used to do this duck voice. And and at the time I lived in Rapids, it was me and my son Ben, and Benjamin was started in the 4th grade there in Rapids, and so he was kind of young, and whenever I brought Ben to the radio station, Carl would do his duck voice, and Ben just loved that. Thought it was the funniest thing in the world. And then I would try to do a duck voice, and then of course Carl would tell me to shut up, and the way we would just banter back and forth. And then we would go in and do a commercial. He'd use that duck voice. And then, just hanging out on the golf course. And then when we were at the water ski show, Jeff sent me a really nice, you usually sent me a cool picture of us three at the, in that trailer we had.
Right, and, down at the Wazicha, yeah.
Yeah, that was really, really cool. And just hanging out at the ballpark. But, when I first started there, I think, James, you were still there when I first came on board in 2004. And it was just me, Terry, and Carl doing this morning show because I replaced Greg Gack. And I remember both of you guys, both Carl and Terry, were just like, thank goodness you're here. Because those two have been doing the show by themselves, and they welcomed me with open arms, and it was so great. And then with Randy and Dave, I became very good friends with, and it was the best times of my life, and it was really great, because I remember when I first moved there to Rapids, I was just like, man, what am I doing here? And it turned out to be the best place in the world. So, and my memories with Carl were just hanging out after work. It wasn't so much at work, but it was after work. It was because we were all friends.
Yeah.
And that's so different nowadays here. And I'm here in Indianapolis. I work at this with this corporation, and nobody, when you do your job, and you go home. Right. In Rapids, we were all just such a tight-knit group, and we all hung out together, and it was so great. So, and when I heard the news about Carl, I was so sad, and I was just like, wow. I never really got a chance to, because I sometimes get to Rapids because my son Thomas, and I just never really get a chance to go to the radio station because I can only do a few things that, my time is so tight. But
appreciate that, Chris.
I'm really sad to hear that news, but I have so many great memories of them.
Appreciate the thoughts, Chris.
And Terry, I'm sure you could kind of repeat the thing. But that's what it was for me. It wasn't so much at work, which he was really good at. I mean, he can. I mean, what can you do? You can talk for an hour.
Yeah, he could. Terry, Terry, do you have a thought or a memory you want to share?
Well, I'd like to reiterate something Chris said, that back in the day when we were all there, we were family, and I mentioned to that when I first started there at WFHR way back in the late 80s, when Chris was a baby. We were kind of family then, and then we went away from it for a while. We weren't real family, and then we were again. We all, like Chris said, we hung out together, played golf together, had a couple of brews together, and we respected each other. But what I think the memory I have of Carl the most is I got to see him from when he was starting his career until I retired, which was, a few years ago. But when he first came there, Carl was, I don't know if he was part-time or he was a reporter. And he was nervous, and he was kind of unsure of himself. And then he got, I think, a year or so, then he got to be a full-time employee, and he started getting more confidence. And then as he went along, I mean, he became a polished newsman. He was a good on-air person, which when he first started, I don't think he could have been. So his growth, really impressed me. That's how he came from when he started there to his final days at WFHR, because he knew what he was doing, and he was good at on-air stuff, especially like the talk shows and that type of thing, plus, reporting the news. So I think that's probably the greatest memory, other than, like Chris mentioned it too, and Jeff, I'm sure, remembers our days at Homestead after work when we played golf. We cheated a little bit. We had a few beers.
A lot. What do you mean, a little?
Well, Jeff and Chris cheated a lot.
Sure.
Now.
Never you, Terry. No, very well said, sir. Terry, that was very well said. I appreciate it. We're running a little long on time. So, Jeff, did you have something that you wanted to?
Just a quick summary. When I got into the business, I was with WFHR for 7 years, and it was a fabulous time for me. And coming from something completely different, I felt at home there. And Carl helped me adapt very, very quickly to our WFHR, which was get down, do your work, and we'll play later and harder. And that's what we did. After work, we'd all get together, and particularly the memories of Carl. At Homestead and over at Ridges and some of the other places we played. It was just a fabulous experience to be with him for a while, because he truly, truly had a deep love for the game of golf. And to share some of the experiences I had down here with my first lesson Penick, and then him doing his thing, and we just kind of bonded that way. And yeah, every once in a while those balls would get shanked, but what the heck, we were having fun. And that's what it was all about. And Randy Paul knows well, and Terry and Chris, and I remember just one quick story. We're at the home. Scott Johnson joined us, and he was the first time he was with us. And we run number one, and he shanked one over pretty good. And we're all kind of going, oh boy, here we go. And he runs over to his ball, and he tries to hit the ball, and it didn't go right. He picked up the bag, and he goes into this and throws and hurls the bag. And Carl, I looked over at him, and Carl's head is down, and he's just shaking his head. And both Chris and everybody going, what is going on? And it was just a fabulous story in time. And we shared a lot of those times. And just a privilege and an honor to be with radio station, the oldest radio station, I believe, in Wisconsin, for those years and the history behind it. And thanks for Terry Stake as well. He was a mentor. And a lot of fun, a lot of some work, but a lot of fun.
I know for a fact that all of our listeners are going to enjoy having heard all three of your voices on the air today. So not only for that, but the time and the thoughts. Thanks for sharing, guys.
Thank you.
We bet. Love you guys. All right. Hey, Pam, please. Good. I wish you well, Pam.
Thank you. Thank you very much for calling. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You bet.
I appreciate you three. We'll talk soon. Thank you, guys. We'll talk soon. Take care. We have to take a break really quick here. Before we do, James Ross, many of you know him as Panama Jack, of course, for many years on our classic rock station, wanted to call in. He's a little stuck at work, but he wanted to pass on most of his stories he has about Carl. He couldn't tell on the air anyway, so it might have worked out that he couldn't get on. But we had a lot of adventures together, trivia, David Harold's, golfing, but I guess you could sum it up all with the word friendship. And he said to give Pam my love. So thank you, Jim. We appreciate always hearing from you, and thanks for that.
Thank you.
We're going to take a very quick break, 30 seconds. We'll be right back with more Remembering Carl Hilke on the Morning Hour, AM 1320. This is WFHR. It's 5 in Stevens Point, 1 in Marshfield, and 0 in Wausau, 4 here in Wisconsin Rapids. You have the Morning Hour, and we are, of course, celebrating Carl Hilke today. I have Randy Paul, Terry Johns, Pam Hilke in studio. Joe from Wisconsin Rapids Community Media also in with us. We've been able to hear from a lot of great people already today. Let's hear from some more. Good morning. You're on the Morning Hour. Good morning. You're on the show.
Yeah, good morning, James and Pam.
Good morning.
Good morning. Do you have a memory of Carl you wanted to share?
Yeah, Carl always knew everybody by his first name when he called in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I call Carl every Monday morning on Sunday morning quarterback.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's a good memory, and I appreciate you sharing that with us, sir.
Thanks for calling, Gary.
Thank you, Gary. You take care. Let's take some more calls here. Good morning. You're on the show.
Hey, James. Dave Miller. How you doing?
Good, Dave. Thanks a lot for being on the air with us. It's always good to hear from you. How are you?
Really good. Really good. I can't hear you because I'm up in Marshfield, but I could call in, so I thought I would do so.
Thanks for calling, Dave. Thank you.
Really appreciate the call,
Pam.
Dave. When I mentioned Carl, Dave, do you have a memory or a thought that comes to mind?
Yeah, I'm just going to say this because it happened to me probably a dozen times. Over the years, I was the person who coordinated the Riverview interviews that would come over and meet with Carl on Morning Magazine. And then even since I've been here at Security Health Plan, we came down and talked with him about retirement insurance, Medicare for retirees, stuff like that. And I was always amazed every single time that I met with Carl with a new interviewee. I mean, he didn't know this person. We didn't come in with a full script or anything like that. We would just start up a conversation, and Carl seemed to have knowledge about pretty much everything. He was having a conversation with insurance professionals about insurance without batting an eye, without ever going like, I don't know what this is about. And that always amazed me. No matter who his interviewee was, he could carry on a conversation, and it was intelligent, and it was thoughtful, and he took it in the direction that made sense. And it was just always amazed by that. He had an incredible talent for that.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Dave, because it may be one of the biggest things I learned from Carl as far as technique and how to do the job, and learning on the fly, too. And in talking to him, some of my last conversations with him were about how to do that, just exactly what you're talking about. And he was such a good teacher and such a good friend, helpful with those kind of things. It's a really good point to make.
Yeah, I would just... He was just so good at it.
He really was. It was natural.
Hey, Dave. Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
Randy's here too.
Hey, Randy.
And James and I, and you all know how tough it is to interview people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That is one of the hardest things to possibly do, and to get information out of some of them. And you're right. Carl was just brilliant at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was bringing in medical specialists who would, how would Carl know anything about that?
Right, yeah.
Or insurance professionals. I mean, what would he know about Medicare insurance?
He was so adaptable.
And yet, he would just adapt to it, and he would just pull it off like it was, something he did every day. It was always amazing to me.
Dave, I always appreciate hearing you, and a lot of us miss hearing your voice on the radio, so it's good to hear from you, man, and I appreciate the time.
All right.
Thanks for
Very
calling.
good. You guys have a great day.
You take care of Dave, too, Dave. Have a great one. That was awesome. Good to hear from you, Dave. Let's go ahead and take another call here. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, Pam and James.
Hello.
Bramer calling. I just wanted to point out that I worked with Historic Point Bass at Nakusa for these many years, and Carl, was always there for us to be able to promote our project and our events. When you're running an all-volunteer organization on a shoestring, when an outfit like WFHR and then Carl would allow us to do virtually a 30-minute free commercial for an event, and then show up at the event afterwards. That doesn't happen in the real world.
Yeah.
But it did here.
Mm-hmm. Very well said, sir. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thanks for
See you
calling,
later,
Tom.
Pam.
Bye-bye.
Yeah,
Thank
bye.
you.
Take care. It's a good call. We appreciate that. And it's a very noteworthy thing, too, because it was so... Carl was more than above and beyond when it came to those things. Pam, you have something to read over there?
I do. I contacted J.C. Lee. Her and her husband, Dan, both worked here. Dan was on air, and J.C. was a copywriter. She wrote commercials and in production. And currently, they're in the Chippewa Falls area, and she's a teacher, and he works in another media job. One of her memories. Carl was a huge part of the WFHR family. Memories. His mustache. I loved how his mustache danced when he would talk excitedly about a big local news story. He had a great sense of humor. I remember how excited he would get when a political candidate would come to the station. He would prep the entire office for 2 days before the visit. He loved the news. He loved having fun with friends, having a beer at David Harold's. He also liked to be in on the joke playing. He was happy and loved his job.
Yeah, that's all so
sweet.
Beautiful. Yeah,
Right,
that is really
right.
nice. We're going to take one more call before we take our final break of the morning here. Good morning. You're on the air with us. Good morning. Okay. Well, please feel free to call right back. Well, as long as we have a little pause in the action, we'll take our final break. When we come back, we'll wrap up the morning hour, AM 1320, WFHR. And just look at your temperatures real quick here. It is 5 in Stevens Point, 1 in Marshfield, 0 in Wausau, and 4 here in Wisconsin Rapids, where you have the morning hour. We're remembering our partner, Carl Hilke, today. And we're going to take some more calls as we wrap up. We're going to go right up to the top of the hour, taking as many calls from you as we can. Good morning. You're on the show.
Hello?
Hello. Did you have a memory or thought about Carl that you wanted to share?
Yeah, this is Casey Martin, and my best to Pam and Carl.
Hi, Casey.
Hi. Carl was generous enough to give an hour monthly for me to produce a show called Bookmarks and Art. And we covered all different aspects. We did international musicians from Eric McFadden. We covered actor and author Dick Van Patten. We did interviews from around the state. We focused on the Wisconsin Prairie Chicken Festival. He was just so generous with the hour, and I support what other callers have said about his attention to detail, and being a wonderful interviewer.
Thank you, Casey. I really appreciate the time, and very well said. Thank you so much for the time, and hope you have a great day.
Thanks, Casey.
Thanks, Pam. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Casey. Let's take another call. Good morning. You're on the show.
Good morning. James?
Yes.
Yeah, hi, James. This is Greg Gack.
Greg.
Hi, Greg.
Hey, Greg.
Good morning to you, sir.
Pam's there, too.
Yes,
I got Pam, Terry Johns, Randy Paul with me as well.
Oh, hi, Randy.
Hey, Greg. How's it going?
I'm okay. I'm only going to take a minute. I just, about Carl, there were two things that struck me with Carl. One was Carl was genuine. He was what he was, not a lot of filter. You got what you got, and frankly, I admired that in many respects about Carl, that, we're in a business where a lot of people put on facades. Carl wasn't one of them. And the other thing, I guess, in a way, I was kind of jealous, and in the back of my mind, maybe it's why I eventually left there, but Carl got to live his dream. He wanted to do news, he wanted to do radio, and he wanted to do it in his hometown. And he got to for virtually his whole career, which was really great. He was committed to Rapids. He was committed to Pam. He was committed to his church. He was committed to the radio station. And he got to live that whole dream out, and that was pretty darn cool. So
yeah.
That's it.
Very well said. And Greg, I just have a second, since I don't get a chance to talk to you very often. You were a big influence on me, sir. So I really appreciate you joining us on the air, and appreciate all the one-on-one you gave me back in the day. We're doing Over the Back Fence and stuff like that. Gave me some advice. It helps me to this day. So not only appreciate that, but appreciate the call. Thank you.
Thanks for calling.
Probably some of which stung at the time, but hey, that's life, right?
Exactly. It's how you learn. It's how you learn. You need those things. Thank you, Greg.
So.
Thank you.
Take care.
You too, Greg. Thank
Bye-bye.
you so much. That was awesome. That was great to hear from him. Thank you, Greg. Let's take another call here. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, good morning. How's it going today? Is this James?
Yes, this is James with the Morning Hour. Do you have a memory or thought about Carl Hilke?
Yeah, actually, my name's Chris Lewick, and I am one of Carl's nephews.
Hi, Chris.
Pam is my aunt. Hi, Pam.
Hey, Chris.
Hi.
Well, thanks for joining us, man.
Absolutely. So I just wanted to call in with a couple of quick memories about Carl that really stand out to me. One, for those of you who know him well personally, he loved little kids and would always break out this Donald Duck voice around little children, and he would always find children at like either family reunions or anywhere, and he'd bring out this voice, and it never failed to make them smile. Certainly even myself, when I was a little kid, he would always do that, and even up through high school, and it never failed to get a laugh. Another one about Carl would be that the first time Pam and Carl met my fiance, they took us out to a Raptors game and welcomed her with open arms and just spoke with her as if they knew her forever, just as long as they had known me. And Carl talked about Rapids and pitched it with this just love for his community, about all the things there were to do, all the festivals, all the restaurants, and just everything with Rapids, as if he was talking about like the next New York City.
Yeah.
And it was just fantastic. And that just really shows just how kind he was, how much he loved his community, and just how much he saw everything that Rapids is and everything could absolutely be. And just a great guy.
Nicely said. Nicely said. And really, really appreciate the time.
Thanks for calling,
Absolutely.
Chris.
Yeah. Of course. Thanks, Pam.
Thanks. We love you.
Hey, thank you, Chris. You take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And let me see here.
This afternoon at 2:30, we'll be interrupting our normal programming to join the Wisconsin Badgers Basketball Network as the Badgers begin tournament play against the Oregon Ducks. Get out of here. You want to bet, Hilke? No. Okay, 2:30 broadcast time.
Oh, man, that felt good. Oh, that felt really, really good. I'm going to try not to wear that button out and overplay that, but I did want to, Mr. Seehafer, Don Seehafer, who is the man in charge of our parent company, and of course our cousins over there in Marshfield and our sister station over here at Y1055, and as well as your home here at WFHR. Just wanted to play something from him real quickly as some notes he had.
Good morning. I'm Don Seehafer, past president and owner of Seehafer Broadcasting Corporation, headquartered in Manitowoc, Wisconsin. I met Carl early in 2006. when we were looking at the radio station WFHR and negotiating to buy the station, he impressed me with his knowledge of what was happening in Wisconsin Rapids and central Wisconsin. After we took over ownership of the station, he continued as news director of WFHR and morning show co-host. Carl was always very friendly and most knowledgeable of developments in Wisconsin Rapids and central Wisconsin. We miss him at the stations a lot and miss him as a friend. We had several great phone conversations in his last months and days. He is missed at WFHR.
Very well said. That is very well said, and I really appreciate him taking the time and being able to share that with us. Whew, we've got a minute or two left. Don't have any calls right now, so do we have any other emails that you wanted to mention, guys? Terry, did you have one?
Yeah, so this is from Sally Kistner. She's the executive director of the Arts Council.
Yeah.
As executive director of the Arts Council, one of my job duties is radio interviews to discuss upcoming performances. I was pretty nervous about this and remember feeling apprehensive the first few times. Carl assured me that he wouldn't ask me any trick questions and that it would get easier with each interview. He was right. He always did such a great job of bringing out interesting facts about each group and making those who called in feel excited about performing in our Performing Arts Center. It was great working with Carl.
That's beautiful. That's nice. That's very nice, Sally.
Here's another one from Gary Morgan. Gary was part of the news department and worked together with Carl. It was a pleasure to work with Carl in the WFHR news department during the decade we now call the 90s. He trusted my news judgment and I trusted his. He rarely rewrote my news reports, read them accurately, and pronounced most of the words correctly. When it was my turn at the microphone to read his stories, I tried my best to be as professional in my delivery as he was. On the rare occasion that I messed up, he never complained. When Carl would take a vacation to play golf down south, I was happy to work his shift and mine. After all, it was just a solid week or two of 16 to 20 hours a day until he got back home, all smiling, tanned, and refreshed. I never complained because he was probably one of the best news directors I ever worked with, and he deserved the break. Besides, I knew because we were a two-person news team, he would be the one working 2 shifts a day while I was enjoying my vacation. Carl and I got along very well during those 10 years together at WFHR because we respected each other and shared the common goal of providing accurate news to our listeners. Back when it was not a novelty to be a real news team doing real, truthful news reports. I was proud to work with Carl, and that's from Gary Morgan, Gary W. Morgan of Wisconsin Rapids.
Well, thank you, Gary, for that.
Thank you.
We
Thank
have. There's never going to be enough time for something like this, but we have run out of time. But before we wrap up and go to CBS News, do you have anything you wanted to add, or anything I wanted to give you an opportunity if you did?
Well, I know. If I'll start, because we'll just work down the line here.
Yeah.
A couple of things that jumped out at me with all of those wonderful calls, loyalty. Gary Morgan and Carl Hilke were the Saturday newsmen when I first started working here like 28 years ago. And I never came in on a Saturday morning where a newsman did not show up. They alternated Saturdays, and we did that for like 4 or 5 years, and then Dave Miller joined us, and then we alternated Saturdays. And we went on like this for probably 15 years. And never was there a Saturday morning where nobody showed up.
That's something.
So loyalty.
Yeah,
you
right.
Talk about
yes.
it. It's so rare nowadays.
And something you can count on too.
If somebody
you can count on.
They still came in.
Yeah.
They just didn't miss a day. So, we sure miss them, and God's blessings to you, Pam.
Thank you.
I think whoever said that he was genuine, I think just really hit it on the head, because he made an effort to make you feel like you were the most important person in the room, and he did it well, and always with kindness and compassion, and truly cared about this community. I had a great love for Pam, and it was easy to see. It was effortless for him. So that is certainly missed.
Thank you, James, for having this idea to honor Carl's memory. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Pam, for giving us the ability to do this, the permission, and just everything. We appreciate you so very much, and thank you for sharing him with us.
And it was nice. It was nice to hear from so many people from around, different areas.
Yeah.
And I tried to contact a number of people, that had worked like many years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and thanks for doing that, because
Thank
otherwise we might not have heard from some of those people. So
yes,
really can't thank you enough for that, and very much we appreciate you sharing him with us and everything you do for us.
Oh, it was his love. Love to work here.
Yeah, sometimes people don't appreciate, what they have until it's gone. And I think we appreciated Carl even before.
Yes, that is a very good point, Randy, I think. And that was one of the things that I think we were lucky enough to have with him, that we had the chance to appreciate him as well as enjoy being with him and being around him.
And some of us had that opportunity off, like many of them said, not just here at the station, but, I think the best times were. We had great times here, but they were great times.
Our oldest joke was that we wanted to create a podcast of just our in-between takes. Right. Like when we're off air, we were going to take all of that and put it on a podcast. I do it the regular stuff because, there's some great stuff. And he is. There's not anybody that comes on this microphone for the rest of the WFHR's history that won't be thinking of him and that won't be able to be on this microphone thanks to him. One of the other things that was said that I think cannot be taken lightly is consistency. And when other people are looking to buy a station or things like that, and they're looking for things that what can I sell? What can I make something out of here? They had a guy like Carl Hilke, that consistency of him being here so long and being such a voice that you could count on, and for not just professionally, but on a personal level too. The man was able to balance both things so well. So whether it's me or anybody else that's ever on this station, we're not here without what he does and the way that the standard that he puts. Certainly a lot of people are responsible for that, but Carl, in this, I'd say last 20 some years or something, being that most consistent voice and being somebody that we could all count on. Whether you're a listener out there, you're somebody that got we're honored enough to be able to work with them. I want to thank everybody for listening and all of our callers today. I'm sorry for anybody that we didn't have time to take. I encourage you to call in over the back fence or something like that, and we will hear from you, and we appreciate you. This is AM 1320, WFHR.